allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Just to let everybody know, Commissioner Puck could not make it this morning, so I'll be running the meeting. Beth, roll call, please.
Commissioner Schlangen. Here. Commissioner Johnson. Here. Commissioner Pop. Commissioner Gopinski.
Here.
Commissioner Heinen.
Here. I might add that all the commissioners, please turn your mics on to make sure they're on. You'll see the little green button.
Thank you.
Okay, any changes to the agenda?
We have no changes, Mr. Chair.
Aye.
I would like to move the commissioner concerns discussion of possible direction of the county credit card application to the regular agenda. We can probably do it right after you're done, Monty, at 9:40. Would that be all right, or do you want it further up?
Wherever you want to wherever you would like to place it.
Okay, we'll place it right after you're done, Monty.
Oh, okay, sure, yeah, that's fine, great.
9:40 with Nadine.
Of course, move it up.
Okay, Commissioner Schlangen?
About the consent agenda, are we going to,
I'm not there yet.
okay.
I just wanted to make sure. Any other changes to the agenda?
Mr. Chair, I'll move to approve the agenda as amended.
I'll second.
Okay, motions and second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed?
I'm gonna do a roll call. Okay.
Passed. Announcement. County board meetings are broadcasted live and video recorded on YouTube. Please refrain from speaking from the audience area and come to the podium so that viewers can hear you. The county board observes Robert's Rules of Orders for its meetings, so please obtain the board chair's consent before addressing the county board. Public comments are generally reserved for the open forum segment or public hearings. However, public comment on the other agenda items may be allowed at the discretion of the board chair. As we begin today, please turn off all cell phones or turn your cell phones to vibrate. Thank you. Open forum, is there anybody out there that would like to address the board that is not on the agenda? Scott Smith, go ahead.
I'm here, I just was wondering, we had some complaints on our lot with that trailer what we have on, Sue's Road, next to the marathon, we have the skid loader sales in front. And the people actually are in the trailer house are actually, it's an office, and we're not supposed to rent it. We got it, the office part rented out, but they watched a lot. So I don't know, me and Roxanne are bumping heads and I can't, it's kind of a conflict of interest because she has some relation living in there. So it's like, okay, we gotta come to the meeting and either we rezone it or we sell the trailer house off of there. So then we'll take the taxes off the lot and get rid of this trailer house. Is that what you guys want? Or should we rezone part of it and use it as a sales lot with people that, how do you say it? I'd have to write them a check to watch the lot back, or how do you guys want, should we move the trailer house off, or what should we do?
Monty, is this something we should have a conversation with Roxanne?
Well, I guess, what I would recommend is that you ask Roxanne to, do research on this issue and then bring it back as an agenda item at your next meeting.
Okay,
I talked to her, the other day, and she said she'd write out, plain straight out, right on the phone, she don't like me, so. I just can't, I'm done dealing with her, I have to go through you guys, I'm not gonna put up with, I can't deal with that. So it's kind of a conflict of interest from the get-go. And, she called me a year ago when I was snowmobiling, and I didn't really appreciate the way the tone and everything. It's not working, but this trailer house, it's on the lot, either we rezone the back part of it, they're watching the lot, I mean, my skid loaders and stuff ain't missing. And if we do take it out of there, then there's gonna be problems with stealing like they did up at, the other lot, we had by Brelton. We had a lot there and they stole a lot of stuff off, batteries, you name it, everything. But it's not a big deal, we can sell it and then just take the tax value off of that, and get rid of it, move it, you know, that'd be another option.
Okay, I
Otherwise-
think what we'll do is we'll set up a meeting with, excuse me, with Roxanne
Okay.
probably.
Cause we can't get
And
the
address
renters
it.
out, and we're just, realtor, I talked to Amy Lega, and she said, try to rezone it, leave your people in there to watch the lot. But there's complaints of, they have a little dirt track there, and then they have piles of trees, and they burned a brush pile, and there's complaints, and I can see with neighbors, you know, with COVID, everybody's
Yeah.
looking at what the neighbor's doing. So
Okay.
I can see where the problems come in.
Okay, yeah, the
Okay.
board will address this with Roxanne,
sounds
okay?
good. Thank you.
And
Thanks
hopefully
for
we'll
your
bring it back to the next board
If
meeting.
we have to, we'll just move it off of there, but I can't
Yep.
really kick them out till June.
Correct.
I think COVID, I can't do anything till June.
Correct.
So they were all upset, and it got into be a heated argument, and I don't want it to have that anymore. I don't
Okay.
need distress.
I understand.
Okay.
Thank
All
you.
right,
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else out there? Nobody else is on the list. Okay, now we'll move forward to the consent agenda item. 1 through 13, anybody want any of them pulled?
Mr. Chair, I would like to pull number 4.
Number 4, okay? Anybody else want anything pulled? Okay.
Mr. Chair, I'll move to approve the consent agenda with item 4 being removed for further discussion.
I'll second.
Thank you. We got a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, number 4, Commissioner Schlangen.
Okay.
Who's,
Is there anybody here that can talk about the construction?
I guess we'll have to find out amongst all of us who knows the most about this. Again, Commissioner Sargon, I was contacted by APO and asked to put this resolution on our agenda. And I understand that it's trying to deal with the large volume of heavy truck traffic in this stretch of road in the vicinity of Amcon Block and Mies Outland. So you've got a lot of trucks entering and leaving. So apparently they want to add longer acceleration, de-acceleration lanes to try and address some safety issues with all the truck traffic. That's how I understand it.
Mr.
Yeah.
Chair,
Jared?
at the APO meeting, what they're trying to do is they're trying to get funding for this project.
Yeah.
And they felt that if everybody did a resolution that was supporting this, that we had a better chance of getting it funded by the state.
Does anybody know where the Highway 23 crossing is gonna come through? Down in that area?
Maybe Chris can talk about that, if you might, maybe you want to bring up Google Maps and you can actually show Commissioner
Sure.
Schlangen.
So yeah, I think there's a couple things going on here.
This is the APO planned route, a new bridge across the Mississippi.
Yeah, so I just looked at the resolution. I apologize for not being more familiar with this, but what the dollar amount in that resolution, $600,000, that's not nearly enough to do any kind of construction. That must be, I'm assuming that's for, they're requesting money to do a study on that Highway 10. That's typically in the range of what MnDOT spends on doing a study along one of their corridors like that. It's probably going to be, a multi-year study, but that would lead to direction on what to do with that portion of Highway 10, I'm presuming. So I think that's what the APO is requesting now, is support from all the members of the APO to support us getting funding for a study on Highway 10. I'll bring up maps here. So we're in this area here. So this project here, the Highway 23, Highway 10 interchange, that's a project that I believe is supposed to go next year. And a lot of this is occurring within existing right-of-way. They're gonna reconfigure these ramps. It's not gonna be a cloverleaf interchange anymore. But there'll be some new bridges of Highway 23 over Highway 10. There's also going to be a pedestrian bridge constructed down through here.
Yeah.
There's gonna be another crossing, I think 4th Avenue. They're gonna try to cross Highway 10 over to here with a pedestrian access. So what this resolution is talking about down here, I think, is in this area. There's the Cisco, what used to be Apperts, and
I think it's a little bit farther south.
Yeah, it's further.
East.
Meese.
Oh, yeah. There's the Amcon Block project. So this is, not even in we're outside of Benton County already. We're in Sherburne County.
Yeah.
So, and then, this area here.
Of Meese, right?
So this is
We
down in
saw-
Sherburne
Chris-
County, right?
Chris, give us a sense of where APO thinks a new river crossing would be. Where
I think it's in this
You're gonna have to
general
zoom.
area here, 32nd crossing.
Isn't it right
in
by the
this area.
prison?
Yeah, so that's probably where they're gonna do that interchange to go over.
Potentially.
So
10.
that's what they would need to do, and I think that's what they were looking. They need some money to do some engineering and studying. You put in an interchange, I mean, just look at the footprint of what an interchange, how much land that eats up. They would need to,
Yeah, it's,
you just study that. Is that realigning Highway 10 to avoid buying out a bunch of businesses or what? There's a lot of things that need to be
yeah, we
considered.
think they would go around that.
So I believe that's what this resolution is
Yeah,
for.
but
is
put that
asking-
in the packet to make sure they're including that with their study for that upgrade too going through.
Yeah, I think so.
Anything else on number 4? Commissioner
That
Swindle,
was-
what would you like to do with that?
I would like to, make sure they include the plans for the highway.
We can't do,
By-
We can't
Bypass.
do that, it's under a consent item, so all we can do is approve the resolution or not approve it. And you pulled it, so it'd be up to you to make a motion.
Yeah, I would, yeah, I'm not sure what they're considering, if they were just doing acceleration lanes or they're going to the long picture of the new intersection, cause I don't wanna do a whole lot of double stuff and
Right.
they should be addressing the whole thing.
Okay. So, would you make a motion to approve it then or not?
If that's included in the study.
We have no choice on what to include in this resolution here.
Okay,
Okay, this was brought forth to us by the APO. So we either adopt it or we don't. So you pulled it, so what would you
okay,
like?
so, and Jared, you'll know what I was talking about when you guys discuss it, right?
yeah, but we don't have a.
They don't have anything to do with the study?
We can't dictate what the whole APO is requesting. Right now, it's just a study for Highway 10 and the acceleration lane at this point.
This would just be the first process of a very lengthy study.
Yeah.
I mean, this study's gonna take 10 to 15 years probably before this bridge is even constructed.
So nothing's
Maybe
gonna
20
be
years.
dealt with real quickly?
No.
No.
Commissioners, if I just may add, yeah, once again, they're hoping that the legislature this year will approve some funding. So that's even a big question mark. Right now, you're just saying, if you adopt the resolution, you're saying, yeah, we support studying this intersection. There's nothing guaranteed that the legislature will even appropriate any funds to fund this study.
Yeah.
So, yeah, just to reiterate it, it's still many years down the road before we actually see construction. A study is usually one of the first steps. And hopefully the study would incorporate all those things that you mentioned, acceleration lanes versus a grade separated interchange and new alignments and all that. So right now, you're just basically saying, yeah, we would like to see some money towards a study. Not necessarily you approve the project or anything yet, just we want to see some money for a study.
And when you're on you'll be on the APO board, so
Yep.
you'll have inputs.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll need a motion.
I'll move to approve item 4 on the consent agenda.
Second?
I'll second.
Okay, we got a motion and a second to approve consent item number 4. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. At this time, Chris.
Good, I am back up. Well, thank you. Allow me just one moment to bring up something. So the first item I have on the agenda is to approve awarding a construction contract for our County Road 55 construction project. And I brought with me, it wasn't part of my agenda packet, but I did bring copies of the abstract for all the board members.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I so appreciate this small writing.
Oh, you saved a tree.
Barely.
So, yeah, a week ago Friday, we opened up bids on April 23rd for County Road 55. We also tied this with County Road 79. County Road 79 is a short section of County Road between County Road 55 and Highway 10. And we figured since we had equipment in the area, why don't we tack that pavement project onto there? So we are once again, very pleasantly surprised with the number of bids that we received. It shows that there's still a lot of hunger out there from contractors. So yeah, once again, we received 6 bids from contractors, and Knife River was our lowest bidder, lowest responsible bidder. And with the 2 tied projects, they came in almost 16% under our estimate. That's a lot of times that's quite a bit lower. If this was a federal project, just to put it in perspective, we would have to write justifications why the bids came in more than 15% under our engineer's estimate. But then when you look at our engineer's estimate, we were estimating these at $1,689,000, which puts it right in the middle of all 3 bids. Yeah. I believe we had a good estimate. We just had some contractors that were still hungry for work, and we're the beneficiary of that. So, with that being said, Knife River was the lowest responsible bidder. They followed all the bidding instructions, gave us a good and fair balanced bid. I would recommend approving a construction contract to Knife River.
Mr. Chair, what was the engineering? I'm seeing, what your estimate was 1.591.
Oh, okay, yeah. So there's 2 pages. Flip to the second page.
Oh, okay.
If we wanted to look at County Road 55 construction costs alone, we estimated $1,591,000.
Okay.
Then the second page would contain the costs on County Road 79, which was another $98,000. So combined, the total estimate came in at $1,689,000. Knife River gave us a bid for both of those projects at $1,421,439.30, which is, so both of those projects combined is under our estimate for just 55 alone.
Mr. Chair, Chris, I see you've got sales tax on here for the source of funds, so what does this take our balance to in sales tax roughly? Do we have a?
Oh,
Yes.
yeah, I do not have a guess. I think it'll probably use about half of it. I want to say we've got probably a balance of about $3 million
yeah.
in there.
Okay, thank you.
So,
And those numbers are continuing to, each month?
they are, and so we've had 1 full year of collection. We're in our 2nd year. It does seem like each month we're collecting a little bit more than the same month the previous year. So it's hard for me to say what's normal yet. We started collecting it in an abnormal year. It may take another year to see what's normal going forward.
It probably will. It'll probably take 2 years to figure out normalcy.
Sure it will.
Yeah. So there is a resolution. If you find these to be favorable, I'm recommending approving the bids and approving the resolution to enter into a construction contract.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to award the construction contract for County 55 and County 79 has been presented.
I'll second.
Got a motion, a second. Any further discussion? I'll call the question. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Very good. Thank you.
Okay, Chris, next one.
Well, okay, so on that same day, we opened bids. I just realized, Monty, I'm not sharing the screen. Is there, hopefully that's
I
not
think
big.
that's fine. I think we, not to discredit staff, but I think it's just, we have staff on go-to, that's okay.
Okay.
At this point, yeah.
Well, on April 23rd, too, we opened bids for another project. We had applied for and received a small amount of federal money to put permanent pavement markings on our County Road 78 reconstruction project. We received what's called HSIP, Highway Safety Improvement Program dollars. We received about $60,000, and that was enough to cover to put permanent striping on the County Road 78 reconstruction project. We knew that in advance, so when we designed 78, we had just put temporary paint down because we knew this year we'd be able to receive those federal funds. The problem is we opened bids on Friday. We received 3 bids from striping contractors, but we rejected the bids because the bidders did not follow bidding instructions. When there's federal money in the project, there's some certain things that bidders are responsible to do. There's a certain forms that they have to complete and sign when submitting their bids. And if they don't complete those forms, we're not supposed to read the bids aloud and reject the bids. So that's what we're doing. I just wanted to make the board aware of that. We did re-advertise it. We're gonna open bids later this month. I anticipate getting those same 3 bidders back and hopefully get good bids. So they were all informed. We called each one of them individually and then told them that there were some irregularities in the bids and that I was not going to be taking those bids to the board to approve. So schedule-wise, I don't think that's gonna hurt us. I think there's still plenty of time to get bids, award a construction contract, and have those stripers do that work still this summer. So I just wanted to make the board aware that that's what we did. We received bids, but there were some irregularities. They didn't follow bidding instructions, so we rejected all 3 bids and are re-advertising it. So just an information item with that.
Any questions for Chris? Okay, we're gonna move forward. We'll recess the regular board meeting to conduct a ditch authority meeting. We'll call the meeting to order. Any changes to the agenda? Chris,
I have no changes to recommend.
anybody else? Entertain a motion?
I'll move for approval of the agenda.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Approve the minutes of Tuesday, February 2nd, 2021.
I'll move approval.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? I'll call the question. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carries. Chris,
All right.
ditch 6 repair report.
Yeah, thank you. Where did my report go? Oh, it's up there. Okay, so yeah, last year, the board approved an engineer's report. We did a process called reestablishing the drainage records. Just through our normal course of inspection, we determined that the ditch 6 appeared not to be functioning as intended. So we do not have good records from when that ditch was established. So we ordered a process called reestablishment of drainage records, and those were approved last fall. We hired Houston Engineering to survey the ditch, and they did a process where they surveyed the bottom of the ditch as it existed today. They took soil borings of the soil to find how much sediment was in the bottom of it, to find a hard bottom, and then establish what that elevation of that ditch bottom should be. That process did indicate that there was some cleaning needed to restore that ditch back to the way it was intended. That we also, during that process, had discovered that there are additional lands that benefit from that ditch. In other words, the drainage area for County Ditch 6 is larger than the original assessed properties for that ditch. So we did order a redetermination of benefits on this ditch as well.
Do you have a map of ditch 6 up there, Chris? There we go.
Here we go. Yeah, so here's ditch 6. So in the meantime, though, just because we have a responsibility to maintain our ditches, we continued working on a repair report, and that's what's before you today. We've completed the repair report, or Houston has completed the report. I've reviewed it, had some changes, and they corrected those, and we have now a final repair report. The next step for the Ditch Authority would be to accept this report and order the repair. However, we've already started the redetermination of benefits process to identify all those additional property owners that should help contribute to the costs of this ditch. So I'm kind of bringing this as more as an informational item, just to inform you that we have done this. Once we complete the redetermination of benefits, that would be an appropriate time to actually order the repair, because then that process would have notified all the landowners that they're gonna have to contribute to paying this. There's a map of the ditch. There's Highway 25, turns north. Right over here on the west side is CASA 2 that goes towards Rice, just to kind of give you some idea of where we are in the county. The repair report has identified where there are field crossings and road crossings that would be replaced as part of the repair. Those individual crossings are a cost to the owner of it. So in addition to paying for, your benefits or paying because you receive a benefit of the ditch, individual landowners would be responsible for their field crossings. Just like us as a county highway, we would be responsible for the cost to replace the pipes underneath the roadway. If there happen to be township roads, there is 145th Street. The township were responsible for the cost to replace that pipe. So I just wanted to point that out. This process also identifies any wetland types. Generally, these types of wetlands, 1, 2, 6, 7, and 8, are exempt from replacement as long as we're just repairing it. That process where we reestablish the drainage records and establish the elevation of the ditch bottom should be, as long as we don't go any deeper or wider than that report, we should be exempt from replacing wetlands.
Chris,
Yes.
how many more property owners did you find out that are gonna benefit from this?
I apologize, I don't recall the number of property owners. I believe that the acreage is in order of 3, that there's 3 times as many acres
Okay.
that are in that drainage area than what there was originally assessed. At the end there, I just wanted to show that these would be, once we order the repair, these last sheets would become the construction plans that we would go out and advertise to receive bids to repair it. So there we would know the hard, solid black line would be the elevation of the ditch bottom, and anywhere you see a dashed line above that would be an area that would be excavated to clean that ditch out. The other thing I wanted to point out is part of this repair, we do have an estimate of costs. We're looking at, upwards of just over $500,000 to repair this ditch. That's why I think it's important till we complete this redetermination of benefits so we can properly serve notice on all those landowners that we would eventually be moving forward with the repair. These are the probable total cost for that project. I will note that there is some contingency, and this is typical of engineers when you're in the planning stages, is to include some contingency for some unknowns that may come out between now and actually accepting a construction contract. So 20% contingency in the construction costs, but this also shows some engineering and some legal costs. But that's to kind of give you a ballpark, about $500,000 that would be assessed back onto all those landowners that receive a benefit.
Mr. Chair, Chris, couple questions, and actually they're gonna kind of reflect both what you're gonna talk about on County Road, County Ditch 3 also. First question, does your office keep record of the public who would call in and request a petition or sign a petition for repair? And if so, does your office follow up with them and say, hey, Mr. Johnson, here's where we're at with your petition for repair. This is our plan moving forward, so that they're kind of kept in the loop?
Yeah, I say the short answer to that is yes.
Okay.
I do want to take a step back and say there are 2 methods a ditch authority can repair ditches. One of them is a petition
Yep.
or a request from a landowner that the statute says does have an interest in the ditch. And then part of our responsibility is when we receive that petition. And when we say petition, it only has to be one person. It doesn't have to be a group, a majority of landowners. But once we receive that petition or request, we would look and see the land that they own currently, is that included in the last redetermination of benefits? And in a lot of our ditches, we would have to go back and we'd have to find the original viewer's report back when these ditches were established, and determine, do they have an interest? Meaning, the land that they own now was originally assessed to create that ditch. If they weren't, then the law would say they don't have an interest and they don't have a right to request that ditch being cleaned.
Sure.
The other method is that we do have a responsibility to inspect our ditches. And even just through our course of normal inspection, if we determined, or me as the county ditch engineer brings it to the board and determine that it's not functioning as it was originally built and intended, we can initiate a repair and start those proceedings. Recent case law has said that we do have a legal obligation to maintain those. Regardless if we want to assess back or not, we have to maintain those, and we shall assess. So that's kind of what happened on ditch 6 here. Just our normal inspection has kind of led us towards this process of needing to repair it,
Right.
which led us to look at, we've got additional lands benefiting from it. We need to do the reestablish of drainage records.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but I think County Ditch 3, you did have a repair petition. And
That's
so
correct.
My whole point is that obviously somebody who's giving a repair petition is frustrated with what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
So to have the communication from your office to say, here's where we're at, here's where we're going, I think douses stuff up front right away.
Sure, yeah. Mhm.
Then, and I hate to pass the buck, but then we're not getting the phone call saying, hey, what's going on with this, because we haven't heard anything. I think it's a reasonable thing for Highway to call them back if they're particularly the one who requested it.
Yeah. I would also say though, it's a lot of times it's neighbors when we start sending out mailers and then it's the neighbors or not next to the ditch, but they're in that area that could be, they start getting letters and then they start calling.
I understand completely. Again, my point would be the person who requests it, because they're the one who's at that point frustrated requesting the repair.
Yeah.
If we can kind of keep it in the loop, hopefully that settles that down a little bit. My next question is, I did notice on the preliminary construction costs, there's a theme in there with mobilization, traffic control, that type of thing. There's $20,000 in mobilization. It's on the next ditch too. Is that common? If it costs them 10 grand, are they only gonna charge us 10, or are they getting the 20?
Yeah, so what we would do, my office would treat this kind of like a road construction project. We would come up with a list of bid items based on the work. Maybe ditch cleaning would be a linear foot bid item, and we want the potential contractors to provide us a bid, price per foot. And then mobilization would be a lump sum item. Then there would be seeding. We would have an obligation what we're doing. We have to reestablish turf and perennial grasses on the ditch. So those are separate bid items as well. So yeah, we would go through a low bid process or a sealed bid process where we would advertise it like we would a road construction project, have a date and time where we'd want all sealed bids submitted by, and then we would open the bids in a public bid opening and then select, the lowest responsible bidder to award a construction contract on.
Okay.
So,
Thank you.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
one question, 500,000 is a lot of money, but, these ditches have been neglected for a long time and I think everybody in the county knows this. But in the end, it's gonna be distributed between a bunch of people.
yeah.
Do we have, how many acres are you thinking this is going to cover? Cause this is gonna be kind of a topic for the next probably 4 or 5 years.
As we're cleaning ditches out.
Yeah,
Yeah, so the total drainage area for County Ditch 6 is 2.8 square miles or 1,800 acres. So that's a lot of landowners. Like I said, I don't recall off the top of my head how many different landowners. Obviously, some landowners own multiple 40-acre tracts and stuff.
so that's like $284 an acre.
Yeah, that's probably about right, yeah. What we have done, on our last ditches that we repaired, that's an assessment on their taxes. The board had approved a multi-year assessment. There was, Monty, I don't recall, but it was about 1% maybe interest. They spread that over 7 years to do
That was where I was going with my next question, because we just did that with,
Little Rock Lake.
Little Rock Lake area, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, in what we do, roads and ditches has a pretty clearly defined process in statute on these kinds of things and who pays for it. It's not so, sometimes I wish roads were a little bit more clear than what they are and more like ditches. It says that those that receive a benefit and the viewers and their viewers report determines who benefits from it. They're the ones that pay it.
So the last couple of years, this was a hot topic for everybody. So the previous board took the initiative that we're just gonna do it. And then we signed a contract to lower the price too, per acre, I think
Yep.
it was.
That was for, yes, to do the redetermination of benefits. We're doing all of our, or the remainder of our ditches. We've had a couple
Ditches,
ditches that were
right.
done recently, but,
And I can
Because
tell you
most
that
of
the
them-
viewers are out there talking to property owners.
Yeah, yeah, because most of the ditches were never redone for 100 years.
that's right. That's another thing that we run into. Statute says that we cannot expend more costs than what the benefits provide. And if the last official report was completed in 1907, we're kind of bound to only spend that much. And in today's dollars, we couldn't even get equipment moved out there for those costs. So, yeah.
Right.
I do want to add though, the idea too, I think, is once we do these projects, Commissioner Kapinski mentioned it not being cleaned in a long time, would be to establish a fund, a small ongoing assessment. So we can have a fund specifically for ditch 6 or for ditch 7. And then we go out there doing our normal inspections and say, oh, there's an issue right here. Let's get it repaired. We'll draw from that fund. And we don't have these big spikes all of a sudden where people are receiving a huge assessment or a perceived huge assessment in 1 year, so.
Mr. Chair, Chris, with that, would you then, that would still get contracted out, or would the county highway department maintain at that point?
It depends. It may be something that we look to contract out, just because we're busy enough just maintaining and keeping our roads in good shape. I would foresee that, if there's a big, blockage or something, we call up some contractors, we get a couple quotes,
Yep.
and then release a contractor to go out there and take care of that.
Okay.
So there's a lot of things that ditch authorities need to be doing that we haven't done. Once again, just like our road ditches, we have noxious weeds that we're supposed to be inspecting for and taking care of, so that would be something maybe someday we have to get into a spraying program. We're supposed to be inspecting all the ditches every year to make sure we're in compliance with buffer strip dimensions and stuff. There's a lot of things that need to be done, so. I feel like we're on step 7 of 200 or something.
Exactly.
Well, we're moving in the right
We
direction.
gotta start somewhere.
Yeah.
Yep. Any more questions about ditch 6? Okay, Chris, let's go to ditch 3.
All right, so similarly, we're kind of in the same spot, but under a different process. Ditch 3 was a ditch where we did receive a valid repair petition back in 2020. That landowner was found to be in an area that was originally assessed when the ditch was established. So back in February, the Drainage Authority ordered a repair report to be done. And that's where we are. We have a repair report here in a very similar format as it was for County Ditch 6. And I'll scroll down here to a map to kind of show us the location. So here's our location. We've got St. Cloud. This is Highway 10. Benton Drive from Sauk Rapids is coming in here. So there's the boundary between Sauk Rapids and St. Cloud. Our County Road 75 or St. Germain, our Mayhew Lake Road, Ditch 3. Ditch 3 was established in the early 1900s to begin at the Great Northern Railway, the St. Cloud to Duluth line, and then travel north and west. Originally this ditch was a lot longer, and was in an area known as Potter's Creek, and it eventually dumped into the Mississippi River. In the late 80s, early 90s, the process was completed to do a partial abandonment of Ditch 3, and so this is where Ditch 3 lies now. It terminates at Trunk Highway 10. There's a culvert that goes underneath their roadway. But like I said, we did receive a valid petition, so that led to us completing this repair report. And during the process of a repair report, we have determined that the drainage area is a lot larger than the original benefited parcel. So this is what this map shows. If you can see it here, these blue squares are the 40-acre tracts that were identified in the viewer's report from 1904. And our files do indicate that these owners at that time were assessed for the establishment of County Ditch 3. So we do know now there's a lot additional parcels. I do know for this ditch specifically, it's like 500 additional parcels. And I shouldn't say 500 additional, 500 total parcels that are in this drainage area that could be receiving a benefit from this short section of ditch, meaning that it takes their drainage and drains it away. So, we do have some estimated costs. This is a lot shorter ditch than County Ditch 6, so a lot less costs, about $182,000. But considering the fact that we have identified that there's a lot of potential additional landowners, at this point, I think it would be more appropriate to go ahead and order a redetermination of benefits for this ditch. So this is where it gets kind of confusing as well. We have already had a public hearing and we did order a redetermination of benefits on all the other ditches that we did not receive a repair petition. Since we did receive a repair petition on this, we wanted to address this repair report first. Our next step now would be to actually set a hearing date, and I have in the packet was an order here, to set a hearing date, and we would notify the public that we would like to initiate a redetermination of benefits for County Ditch 3. So that would be, I'm recommending that would be our next step at this point, is to kind of look at our calendars, pick a date, at least a month in the future to give us time to serve notice and publish it, and set a public hearing date on this Ditch 3. And on that day, consider ordering a redetermination of benefits.
Generally, we set that for our, one of our board meetings.
So, Mr. Chair, Chris, do you have an idea? Are you thinking the first meeting in June then, or?
We could do the first meeting or the second meeting of June. Maybe second meeting gives us a little bit more time. It pushes it back, 2 weeks, but.
Okay.
This chances are this,
Oh, I should add, I hear chiming. Michelle Meyer, our county attorney, is on the line. So if we have legal questions and things like that, so.
go ahead. Go ahead.
Actually, for process, if I could interject.
Yes, please.
All right, so actually, by statute, you need to set a public hearing for the repair report to be held within 30 days of this hearing, or of this meeting today. And at that hearing, what will likely happen is you will then order that redetermination due to omitted properties from the drainage area and stay the proceeding on the repair report until that process is completed. So actually, what I would like to see today from a procedural legal standpoint is a hearing set for the repair report that will include then those omitted properties.
Mr. Chair, Michelle, then are you thinking May 18th?
Well, you have 30 days and we have to give notice to all 500 property owners 10 days prior to the hearing.
Say June 1st.
I would say, yeah, June 1st.
June 1st.
Yep.
June 1st work for you, Michelle?
Yes.
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Schlangen?
would I need to opt out of this since I live in that area?
No.
I live in that area as well.
Yep, so do I.
I'll take mine now, my notice.
All right, are you ready for a motion, Mr. Chair, or you want to?
Actually, just hang on a minute. Thank you, Michelle, for that. Chris, go back to the map
Okay.
to where you said the ditch was abandoned. Okay, so MnDOT, you notified MnDOT about their culverts and everything because there's gonna be a lot of water flowage going through there when we do clean ditch 3?
I have not talked to them recently, but we've talked about this in the past.
In the past, correct.
They feel confident that their design, when they built this to be a 4-lane and an interchange, it encompassed a drainage area similar to this size. So they will be notified again as part of these proceedings because they do. I think they're identified as some of their drainage drains into this ditch and would be apportioned part of the costs as well.
And then you'll talk to Sauk Rapids because when all this opens, it's still gonna go down Potter Creek.
Correct, yes. So, yes, they will be, we will be talking to them as well. So,
Because we've had issues in the past in that industrial park
Mm-hmm.
in Potter Creek.
Yep.
So I want them fully aware of what's happening. And just to let you know, I'll be stopping in and telling them too. So,
Mr. Chair, Chris, on that map right there, it ends right after 75.
Correct, yes.
And where does it go from there?
This is where it's kind of interesting. There is an open channel that drains south. It goes under Highway 23, continues south, goes actually underneath Arkansas 8, and then down into Sherburne County.
Isn't that lot for sale right there? Been for sale for quite a while?
I'm not sure. We do know that in this area, though, the flow splits.
Yeah.
So that's why this, I don't know how you describe that color of line. Everything inside of this line kind of drains this direction. Everything else kind of drains the opposite direction. So we just know based on elevations and everything, there is a natural divide. That's been long talked about in the file, that there is some kind of natural or artificial summit somewhere, but nothing confirms what that elevation is. We just do know that the flow splits in that direction. I do know that based on official board action from the early 1900s, that this county ditch was established to start at the railroad alignment and continue in this direction. And that's what we're kind of operating under. We received a repair petition that obligates us to initiate a repair, and we can go back to the lines and grades that was originally established. So.
Okay.
I'm not trying to create more work, but I see that where it ends, it's obviously not in the assessment area. If I was that property owner, I think I'd be a little upset as not only, I'm not being assessed for it, but that's where all the water's being dumped. You know, you see right outside, right across 75?
Oh, in this area here,
Yeah.
yeah. So, yeah, these, once again, back in 1904, that they said these 40-acre tracts did drain into that ditch, and they helped pay for the portion of the costs. We do this process today, we order the redetermination. The viewers will determine, do these 40-acre parcels and all these individual parcels inside of it receive a benefit? If so, how much? We already see there's a lot of residential lots too. There's some industrial lots that contribute to it. That's why I say there's 500 potential properties. We may get into it and say, well, now that this Highway 23 is here and takes drainage, maybe it doesn't make it all the way to the ditch, what have you, so.
It definitely makes sense to clean it.
Oh, yeah.
Mr.
Yeah.
Chair, if I could, go ahead, Chris.
Well, I was gonna say, yeah, we have the repair report. Once again, just much like County Ditch 6, we have things that these would become the construction plans. We know that there is quite a bit of these dashed lines. These boxes are 5 feet, so we got 1.5 feet of sediment at the downstream side of this that there could be removed. So it's a relatively short ditch, $180,000 to clean it. There is some room to clean. So.
Mr. Chair, Chris, just for clarification, to keep it easy, you're looking for a motion for a public hearing. In this case, Michelle Meyer's looking at June 1st, our first county board meeting in June, and it's for the redetermination of benefits for County Road, or for County Ditch 3.
Michelle,
You need to consider the repair report as well.
I'm sorry, Michelle, could you say that again?
It would be to consider the repair report as well. So as part of that repair report, that's when you get that redetermination piece.
Okay,
so basically she's saying at June 1st, we'll have a public hearing. We'll say, yeah, we're accepting this report. This sounds good, but we're not actually gonna order the work until we finish until we finish the redetermination of benefits. So we're gonna order the redetermination and we'll come back to the repair at a later date, if that makes sense.
Correct.
If we had think of a different way, if we had a recent viewers report and we knew all the benefited properties, we would go right into, we'd have a public hearing, accept the report, and then order the work. We're gonna wait to order the work until we know who all is gonna help pay for it.
and that's why your paperwork basically is asking for a public hearing for redetermination of the benefits of that ditch.
Pretty much, because ultimately I think that's what we're gonna lead to. So we'll do 2 actions on June 1st then. We'll have a public hearing, and then the 2 actions after that would be to accept the report, but stay the proceedings, as Michelle called, and then the second action would be to order the redetermination.
And I understand that, that'll be for June 1st.
Correct.
But Michelle, for today, we're looking to schedule a public hearing for the redetermination of benefits for this County
Nope.
ditch number 3.
I would actually say what you're doing is you are scheduling a public hearing on the repair report. And I'm going to modify that proposed public notice to reflect that. And as a part of consideration of the repair report, then there is a process within the repair statute that allows us to order those redetermination of benefits.
Okay,
So today is just
She
public
said.
hearing on the repair report.
I would move approval what Michelle Meyer said.
well, that's why I was trying to clean that
Yeah,
up.
yeah, exactly. I mean, there's a lot of moving parts, but, I'd move approval of scheduling public hearing on the, on the what?
First,
On June first for the the study to be,
And repair report.
the study and repair reports, to be, to have a public hearing.
I'll second it.
Michelle, is that good? What?
Yeah, do you have
Or-
a time that we can add to that public notice?
Should we?
Oh, sure, we need to set a time.
Well, and it will be on the ditch authority agenda, so.
Well, I think what we've done in the past, maybe we've set the time for 9:30. We can't usually start public hearings before the published time. We can always start them after,
We can always start them after, but I thought it was always 10 or 10:30.
maybe.
It was towards the end of it was always at the end of our board meeting.
I know typically when people ask me, I say publish it for earlier, because if you publish it for later and we get way ahead, then we just have to sit and wait.
Right.
There's no harm in publishing for earlier. You know, sometimes if you think you're gonna have a lot of folks show up, you know,
Get it done
you wanna
with.
be a little more accurate. It just depends on this issue. So you don't want folks that sitting here, you know, for an hour waiting for something to come up.
Commissioner Kapinski, would you consider
I would.
amending it to 9:30?
I would move, I would change my, motion for the, 9:30 timeframe
That's fine with me on the second then, thank you.
on June first. Yep.
Okay.
Commissioner, may I ask you,
Yes.
is it okay, should we look at like online meeting options still? We would want to put that in when our publication or our posting, so if that's
so.
okay? All right. That was just more information for me.
Okay, we made it through that motion. We have a second.
The
Any
second, I have
further
a second.
discussion? I'll call the question. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, motion carries. Thank you, Chris.
Thanks, Chris.
Thanks, Chris.
Yes, thank you. I think that's all I have. Unless there's any questions, I'd be happy to stand for questions, but I can easily step aside as well.
Okay, if there's no more questions, we're adjourned. Ditch Authority is adjourned. Okay, at this point in time, I am gonna go into the Human Services Board. We're gonna call the meeting in order for the Human Services Board. Bob?
Good morning.
Good morning.
Ray, is there anything to add to the agenda?
No.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
I'll second. Got a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Okay, consent item. We've got two of them under consent item. Anyone want any of those two pulled for clarification?
Mr. Chair, I'll move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
I'll second.
Got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Call the question. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, carries. Bob, do you have anything for us?
I have nothing for you. Just wanted to show up just in case you had questions or you pulled something.
Anybody have any questions for Bob?
Bob, and sorry if I missed this in the reading, but are we rescheduling for a June date for our cow with Human Services?
Yes.
If you're looking at. I
Get
know
back
we-
on track.
Yep, okay,
I plan on sitting here waiting for the cow,
okay,
so,
sounds good, thank you.
yep.
Okay, anything else for Bob? At this time, we'll adjourn. Now we'll recess into our regular board meeting. And that'll be Monty.
Sure. This item addresses the Full Lake to St. Cloud fiber connection. And Commissioner Johnson and Commissioner Kapinski attended a meeting with Steve still? And folks from the city of Foley recently to discuss the fiber connection. And the city again is moving forward this summer with putting this project out to bid, the extension of, or connection of their sewer system to the St. Cloud regional system. So I think they're eager for some decision on our part about, do we wish to be a partner in installing the fiber connection between here and St. Cloud? What is our interest, what is our financial commitment, and so on. So Commissioner Kapinski, you probably saw in the agenda item, was kind enough to give us an estimate on what it might cost to install fiber and housing and installation. About $288,000 would be the cost for that installation. I think it's 11 miles, maybe?
Yeah, I think at the end, we wanted to bump it up a little bit to
A little bit,
13.
yeah, just a cushion, sure,
Yeah.
yep,
Because of the jogs and everything.
cushion, yeah.
And I have, Monty, just so you know, I have sent that out just for more
Okay.
budgetary quotes
Sure.
on that.
So just to recap, what would be Benton County's interest in this fiber connection? Well, number one, it's allow us to connect directly to our East St. Cloud facility, the Eastgate Human Services. We're paying about $1,100 a month in commercial internet service there. So we would be able to connect directly, just like we do to our highway facility, and then save that cost every month. I'm guessing we most likely will have a long-term presence in East St. Cloud. So it'd be nice to get away from that cost and have our own dedicated fiber. And I think secondly is also, I think folks see the opportunity that this could bring high-speed broadband, another option for the residents of Foley and beyond. We don't necessarily know exactly how that's gonna work, but you're bringing that pipeline into Foley and it creates opportunities. And I think that's what everyone sees. So another good reason to be a part of this.
Mr. Chair, if I could, or Monty, I'm, from my perspective after that meeting, and I'd love to hear from Commissioner Kapinski, but at this point, I'm in the camp of us owning that fiber.
Yeah.
For the long-term impact on Foley and beyond. And so I just open that up for discussion about how people feel about that.
And I tend to agree that I think if we own it, then we have better control and we're not in a position of having to lease it from somebody else for our purposes, for that connection to East St. Cloud. So I definitely would feel more comfortable with ownership of the fiber. I know there's some things that go along with that, but that seems like the best long-term choice for us is ownership.
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Gopinski, enlighten me.
There's a lot of moving parts here, but in the end, this is absolutely great for Benton County, City of Foley. I think there's a lot of potential to link other lines of fiber into this. Obviously, we don't want to be our own telco or anything like that, so we'd have to work on some agreements and managements of that with others, our partners. But I think owning this link is a very big start to building out Benton County broadband.
Is there any grants available for this? I mean, the question I have is that if we put it in the ground, then the grants can't pay for it, correct?
Well, one source of funding that's coming our way in the very near future is our American Rescue
Right.
Plan Act funding, which
Yep.
can be used for broadband. So that $7.9 million will be arriving soon. So that is definitely, I think, one good source of funds for this. The state, I think, is going to continue its border-to-border broadband funding. One thing I should mention is this, when we install this fiber, there won't instantly be a connection between here and East St. Cloud. There's two gaps. There's a gap here in town from about Snap Fitness to our facility. And then there's a gap from about Minnesota Truck Headquarters to Eastgate. Now, there's apparently already fiber that's in the ground that we can connect to a combination of RVIG and City of St. Cloud. And that may come at some cost.
Mm-hmm.
But there is no fiber that's currently from Snap Fitness to here. So that might be a place where we've talked about with the city applying for a grant for that, the Foley gap, we call it. That might be a good place to apply for a grant there.
So would the city then assume that responsibility? Or would that still be the county's fiber?
That could be both ways. I in my view of this, we bring it to a central point or we'll call it a CO, and then we move out from there. and disperse it. So I would say bringing it in and bringing it into one point would be the county. We could look at supplying that further to the city if we wanted to, or they could take on that cost. There's a lot of different options.
As Commissioner Kapinski observed earlier, there are so many questions about this and how it's gonna work, and I wish we had answers today. I think the issue is before us is, get this pipeline in the ground.
Yep.
And of course, we'll have to address the details of some of these issues later.
Commissioner Chair, I think the plus about the details is that we've got both the city of Foley and the county willingness to do this.
Yep.
And so we're not butting heads on it. We just have to figure out the details of it.
And I should add, Mr. Chair, and that is, Steve has helped us understand, is it actually viable to connect to East St. Cloud? The answer is yes. If that was somehow impossible, I probably wouldn't feel the same way about this. But it is, so that creates this opportunity for us to save that cost and connect to East St. Cloud directly.
Mr. Chair, I think with Commissioner Johnson, he's been hearing from a lot of people in the county that our broadband is subpar. Amanda, you know how this is gonna affect businesses coming to Benton County. I mean, when you start getting more business coming to Benton County, you get broadband all over the place, and broadband as a whole in the country and rural areas has failed over this COVID.
Yeah.
That's why there's so much broadband money out there is the government has seen this. And I think this is a perfect opportunity to do what we can to better and put Benton County forward. We're sitting right next to Stearns County that has a ton of business, ton of people. We got a labor force right there that we can attract additional people to move into Benton County, additional businesses, just by investing in Benton.
And Commissioners, I would say that Eastgate is certainly a part of this. I can tell you that I would be pushing for it even if Eastgate wasn't in this. We need this here to be able to go out there.
Sure.
And it's a good opportunity with them doing the pipeline and everything.
Absolutely.
The cost we have, the estimate of 288, I don't believe that the city is unwilling to contribute something. I think that they are. So maybe today, it'd be nice perhaps to have some consensus on, well, what do you see as a fair and reasonable contribution for Benton County? What would you suggest perhaps that the city would contribute to this? And maybe again, that consensus on ownership.
Yeah.
Give us the framework today, and most likely we'll have to bring back to you possibly some agreements with the city of Foley, which formalize this relationship and so on. But I think today we're just looking for that framework to work with.
Mr. Chair, having two people own this is gonna be very sticky, I think.
Yeah.
I think one person owning it or one entity owning it is the way to go, and work in conjunction with the other, whether that's use of some for minimal cost or free.
I agree with you. One thought I had for you perhaps is let's just say, for example, the city says, hey, we'll contribute 20%. I'm just making a number up. That might then allow them to use strands of this fiber for their own city purposes. That might be the sort of the exchange transaction that they get then.
And I agree with Commissioner Johnson. The Benton County owning this gives us the opportunity to expand it, just not from St. Cloud, but maybe towards Gilman, maybe towards Forest, and maybe connect up with our other partners in the community that have fiber. So I think maybe looking at a small fee from the city to contribute would be a good thing. Maybe 50,000 or 40,000 or something like that. We don't have to, I don't think we gotta set that today, do we?
I guess perhaps no. Maybe what you could do is just say, hey, you'd like the city to contribute something, and we can work that out and see what they're willing to contribute.
And I know we got a meeting coming up next Wednesday.
The 12th, that's I believe, right. So, again, maybe today, just looking for that consensus on ownership, and if you want to go back to this meeting with the city and and say, hey, okay, what are you willing to contribute, and perhaps get that solidified then. I think that's the goal we're looking for, is at some point, within a month or two, a solidified plan on so they can, because they need to know, for example, what to put in the bid specifications. That's kind of where the rubber meets the road, is they've got to have those details. What's going to go on the ground when they bid it out? Yep. So.
I'm in consensus with
Certainly am.
the county owning it and moving forward that way.
Okay,
Sounds okay.
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 We'll work along those lines, and again, when we meet with the city on the 12th, we'll kind of get a sense of, hey, what are they willing to contribute? And then that can form the basis for an agreement. I'm hoping that perhaps their city attorney can begin drafting something for us to solidify this. Okay. All right, that's all I need. Thanks a lot.
Commissioner Kapinski, thanks for all of your work. You too, Commissioner Johnson.
Well, we got a lot left.
We do.
Oh, yeah, this just started.
Yep.
It's a good start, though. Okay, next, consider resolution, business subsidy agreement and tax abatement grant to Performance Foods. Amanda,
Hi.
good morning.
Morning,
Morning.
commissioners.
Do you need anything up here?
No, I don't think so. Good morning. Okay, so we have in front of you this morning a tax abatement and business subsidy agreement in reference to Performance Food Group out of Rice. And I have a completed and negotiated contract and agreement in front of you this morning. I was just gonna run through a few things. I don't know, it's probably been a while since you've seen an abatement agreement. So I was just gonna kind of run through things. And I will preface this by saying that the city of Rice had an opportunity to review the contract, the agreement, business subsidy language last night, and they did approve it. So I'll just run through it with you quickly. And I'm just gonna highlight some of the pages, so if you just wanna follow along with me. So the agreement is, of course, between Performance Food Group and Benton County and the city of Rice. It's one agreement representing all entities. On page 6, we talk about, under section 3.1, 2 talks about the completion of phase 1. The construction cost and related expenses of the project are evidenced by paid invoices, so we would not reimburse any property tax payments to the company until they evidence the work that has been completed as part of their project through paid invoices or other documentations that are satisfactory to the city and the county. That sum should not exceed the $250,000 in the phase 1 from the county. And then, of course, $150,000 by the city, so aggregately not to exceed the $400,000 that we agreed upon and discussed during our public hearing on March 1st. The completion of, excuse me, the completion of phase 2 and number 3 talks about, again, the project in phase 2. Those tax abatement payments won't be paid until they are evidenced by paid invoices in the amount of $50,000 to be paid by the city and $150,000 to be paid by the county. And of course, that is over a term of approximately 14 years. I'll go through that, no longer than 10 years in each phase. But I'll go through that in a second here. So page 7, the phase 1 project shall commence construction by June 30th of 2021, shall be completed by December 31st, 2022. And we gave some leeway in that timeframe due to the access to materials and construction materials. They're extraordinarily expensive at this point, and access to steel, those sort of things. So we gave them a little bit of extra time so that they can get the project done. Phase 2 project would begin no later than May 31st, 2025. And they would have 12 months to complete that project. We'll move on to page 9. And this talks about the term of the tax abatement program. And we discussed this at the public hearing on March 1st, but I'll just recap it. So the tax abatement program shall exist for a period of up to 14 years, beginning with the real estate taxes payable in 2023 through 2038, provided that in no event the tax abatements for either of the phases will be provided for a period of more than 10 years. As we mentioned, they only want 10 years of abatement payments for each one of those phases. Page 10 talks about the failure to complete the construction of the project in accordance with the timelines. So if they don't complete the construction based upon the agreement that's outlined in front of you this morning, they are in event subject to default of the agreement. So they would have to come back to the county or the city and both to discuss that with the county board. But I will kind of go over some of the language in what that looks like in the event of a default. Page 11 talks about specifically the Business Subsidy Act. Phase 1 of the business subsidy talks about the developer intending to meet the following Phase 1 goals, which is maintaining 175 full-time equivalent jobs at the developer's existing manufacturing facility. This is only the production jobs at the facility. There are additional trucking jobs to make things simple as far as reporting, we're requiring them to maintain the 175 production jobs. And then, of course, they would need to create at least 22 additional full-time jobs with an average wage of $45,000 inclusive of benefits. And they have to maintain those jobs and create those jobs within 2 years of completing that project in Phase 1. If they do not meet those goals, they're subject to repay the tax abatement payments back to the city and the county. Page 12, number 3, talks about the reporting. There's annual reporting that is required as part of making sure that the developer is maintaining and creating those new jobs. Those reports will get, I will take care and manage all the reporting that goes along with the business subsidy agreement. And those are typically done once a year, and we have the company pull a report showing the number of jobs that they create and retain in that year. So, and that goes to the state by April 1st of every year. And then I talk about Phase 2 on page 12 under the Phase 2 business subsidy. Again, maintaining that 175 full-time jobs and also maintaining the 22 jobs with an average wage of $45,000 inclusive of benefits. They will likely create new jobs with that Phase 2 project, but that information is just really unknown at this point. And so to tie that business subsidy language in with this agreement, they are required to maintain those 175 jobs plus the 22 new jobs that they're creating for the next 2 years after that Phase 2 is completed. Page 13 talks about the other financial assistance that they're applying for and have been approved by the state. And that's including the Minnesota Investment Fund dollars they've applied for and received approval from the state in the amount of $300,000. That's just disclosing that information. And then also the Job Creation Fund loan in the amount of $175,000. Both of those amounts have been approved by the state. So we're just working out all the final details of those agreements, and that is directly tied to the city, but this is just for information and full disclosure. Of course, the developer is required to pay all the city and county's reasonable administration costs and legal fees associated with drafting these documents, with doing any of the administration work. So that's not required by the taxpayers of this county to pay for those services that they're requesting. Page 15 talks about the events in default. If, for whatever reason, they default on this agreement, we have a list of remedies that we can pursue in the event of a default. So those are listed on page 15 and subsequently on page 16. So if the developer has defaulted on this agreement, we have to give written notice within 30 days, understanding and specifying what those items of default are. And then we may suspend any tax abatement payments to the developer until they cure those defaults. They may be required to repay a portion of the tax abatement payments that they've received as well, depending on if they don't create the jobs, they don't retain the jobs, they don't build the project, things of that nature. That really, for the most part, sums up the abatement agreement. Of course, you had an opportunity to review this during the weekend. I wanted to kind of put this in front of you and just kind of recap some of the highlights of the agreement, so you have an understanding of what this looks like. I know it's been some time, so. And as I mentioned last evening, I presented the same information to the City of Rice as well, and they're in full support and approval of this abatement agreement. So I'll turn it over to you for questions.
Okay, anybody have any questions for Amanda?
Mr. Chair, Amanda, safe to assume Michelle Meyer or someone at the county attorney's office has reviewed this?
The attorney that reviewed it was Gina Fiorni. She's with Kennedy and Graven. She is the city's attorney, and then also we've contracted with her.
Okay.
I
Through
don't
BEP,
believe
though.
Michelle has reviewed the contract itself.
And historically, Mr. Chair, we've, for better or worse, you've always used outside attorneys for this kind of work. I know it's quite specialized. I know in the past we used Scott Larison. I believe he was, I'm not sure which firm he was with. We tend to always just use outside counsel for these kinds of issues like economic development loans and so on.
So you're talking about the attorney for a BEP?
The attorney for the City of Rice,
Yep.
and then we work directly with the City of Rice and their attorney. I've worked with Gina on many of the many different projects in the city of Elk River when I was there. So have a very good working relationship with her, and very familiar with these contracts as well.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for Amanda?
Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir.
I'd make a motion to adopt this resolution approving the tax abatement and business subsidy agreement for Performance Food Group Incorporated.
Second.
Okay, we got a motion and a second. Any other discussions? I'll call the question. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you very much.
Great job, Amanda.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Still haven't found your parking spot.
It was
We'll
open
get there,
today.
we'll get there.
Okay, next we're going to have Nadine. Nadine, are you on the phone? Are you online? Great. Discussion, the direction of the credit card. Would you like to talk to us about that, please?
Can you clarify with me exactly what kind of information you're looking for? Are you referring to credit card processing of the county?
I'm sorry, Nadine, we can't hear you very clearly.
I'll come down there.
Thank you.
Benton, those mics on laptop computers just aren't very good. Just not very good.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I don't know, that speaker never wants to work on my laptop, so I apologize for that.
Now we can hear you clearly.
Yes. So, are you inquiring about the possibility of credit card use throughout the county or a different topic?
The whole process of when it will be available.
So, there's a little history with, offering credit card service throughout the county. Started with my predecessor, it didn't get completed, it got passed over to admin.
And then when I took the office, I took it back to work on completing that process. COVID hit, we had a lot of issues with that and 3 elections in 1 year. So where it's at right now. I've been working with a credit card vendor that we're very interested in having them provide that service for the county. Michelle Meyer has reviewed their contract several times. Right now, the contract is on their lap, and they are reviewing the recommended changes that Michelle is requesting. Last week, when I spoke with the vendor, they communicated they're still reviewing the recommended changes from Michelle, and then they would be back in touch with me. So that's kind of the first part, is getting the contract to a point that we can come to the board and get approval on having that service in the county. There are some other moving pieces with that. We need to adopt a Benton County credit card policy, and this would be different from the credit card use policy that they have. If someone holds a Benton County credit card, this is a different policy. This is a policy that will state what the expectations are of the departments and staff that are processing credit cards over the counter for those customers that want to utilize those services. So that is completed. I'm going to ask for the attorneys to review that and get their feedback on that to make sure the county is fully protected. So that's kind of where things are at. I'm hoping that we're rocking and rolling by June, July. That's my goal. The other piece of it is each department is going to have a different need and what they're going to decide they're going to do with the fees, whether they're going to absorb the fees or roll them on to the customer. So I've received a form from the vendor. It's a really old form. It needs to be modified a little bit. General questions for each department head to answer. What's your need? How many machines do you need? What are you going to use it for? Those type of things to get the vendor starting on working with each individual department head on what their needs are. So we can't roll out all departments at one time. I can't manage that much. So we're going to determine who's going to get rolled out first. So that's kind of where it's at. Questions?
I brought this on the agenda because I actually had 2 complaints in my 2.5 years. And one was a neighbor coming walking down my street and say, really? We can't use credit cards in Benton County? What's the problem here? You know, what's the issue? You can use them everywhere else but Benton County. You know, so.
Mr. Chair, is it safe to assume, Nadine, that we're gonna have one vendor?
Hopefully.
Okay. I mean, from
The
my
ven-
perspective, I would think we want one vendor.
The vendor that we're looking at is in several counties in Minnesota. And we had a panel of 5 department heads that kind of met, and we looked at all the possible vendors out there and weighed what they had to offer. And the one that we're hoping to implement had the best things that we would be interested in, and their reporting was good, and they're very experienced working with counties, so it made the most sense.
So is the plan for the department heads to come to consensus and bring forth one vendor?
Once we know that contract is hopefully done being reviewed back and forth, because that has been going back and forth, then yeah, we'll come back to the board and present all that.
And are you thinking each particular department head would decide whether or not they're gonna retain, let's just say it's the 3% fee, if they're gonna eat that or if they're gonna pass on the customer? Or is that something we need to talk about?
So, that's a very good question. In the past, when we've had conversations about how this was gonna look, There were departments that were wanting to roll the fee over and put that in with the fees that they have for their department. And other departments such as myself, we currently have a credit card processor for property tax payments, if you're aware of that. I don't know how long we've had the company we have. So people can go online and pay with a credit card. That service that we currently have, I think it's about 2.85% that the customer has to agree to when they hit submit to process their tax payment. So for my department, and speaking solely on my behalf, I wouldn't recommend rolling over the fee for property tax payments if people are choosing to use that service for their taxes, because as you know, taxes can be quite hefty, and that would be a pretty hefty fee bill for the county to have to absorb. So in my opinion, the person that's choosing to use that option should be absorbing the fee for the convenience of using that option.
Mr. Chair, and maybe this question for Monty and Nadine both, but is there some direction needed here towards the committee to drive that? I get that answer right away, because I think we want to have one vendor and we want to decide on the fees right up front. Because for the department heads to get together and come back with different options, can't we decide that right away to give them some guidance that we want one vendor and what we're gonna do with the fees to expedite this a little bit? Because then they have some direction on what to do. Is that fair?
So.
Or is it strictly gonna be an administrative decision?
Sure. Well, Mr. Chair, I think that the committee had already made that choice to go with one vendor called Forte. So I don't think there's really any dispute about that, the issue of that vendor for these over-the-counter transactions.
Countywide?
Yeah, right, exactly.
The
Yeah,
fee
I don't-
is really
there's
the question.
There's
So
no
the
issue
fee's the
with that.
question.
You know, I remember a long time ago, several years ago, there was discussion about, well, what do you do about these merchant fees? Are we gonna absorb them? We're gonna pass them on to the customer? And the consensus of the board way back when was to absorb them. But, you know, it's perfectly fine to revisit that assumption. If you absorb the fee, perhaps you remove some disincentive for a person to use credit card. You know, we want them to use their credit cards. We don't want checks. We don't want cash. So if we're absorbing the fee, maybe you can remove that hesitancy to use your credit card. But the other side of the coin, though, is it really reasonable for taxpayers essentially to absorb these fees when it's really a convenience for you to use your card? You know, where do you go with that issue? I think that really is a policy decision that you all should make. Where does that land for you? How do you feel about that? I must say, I don't really have a recommendation, because I view that really as a policy decision. That's something that you should tell us what you think is the best thing to do.
So there are several counties in Minnesota that use this Forte, and some of the departments do it one way and some of the departments do it another way. So it's not out of the question to have it different, where, say, the sheriff's department would decide to absorb the fee for the use of that in his department, and the auditor treasurer would decide not to absorb the fee. And Forte is familiar with that and has worked with that in several counties. So just something to,
I'm assuming you build it in your budget then?
yes.
Because if it doesn't come out of the budget
Yep.
and it comes forth here with
Yep.
an extra.
And they set,
Disappointing.
and they set the rate for us. The fee can be, I can negotiate with them on the fee. It's based on, what they're gonna ask me is they're gonna want some new numbers from me regarding what kind of transactions that we're currently experiencing with our online, vendor, you know, what are we seeing for dollar volume? Obviously, the higher the volume and the more people that utilize that service, you can negotiate a lower rate. So,
I should just, maybe, I'm sorry, Nadine, I remember a little bit of history, is back when this was talked about. I remember the board then didn't want taxpayers to absorb this fee. So what we proposed at the time was, okay, we'll take a look and see what all of our fees are. What's the cost of all these fees? And we'll make a global adjustment to the fees we charge customers to recoup that merchant fee. And that seemed to be okay with the board. But again, I remember them distinctly saying, look, we don't want property tax dollars to subsidize this. We want people that are using the service to pay for it, but through the fee that they're paying. So for example, if you're getting a conditional use permit, or any other land use permit, or you're buying a certified copy of something from the recorder's office, that your fee would reflect the cost of those merchant fees.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, sir.
Nadine, do you know about how much we could run through? I mean, there's gotta be, you got a range of, is it between 2 and 4 million? Is it?
Through the credit card.
Yeah.
I don't, I requested the latest numbers from our online vendor for 2020 and 2019 because the numbers that I have are from 16, 17, and 18. I'm sure we saw a huge increase, of course, last year with COVID. Well, we definitely did. So I don't really know where the numbers are at right now. I wouldn't say they're nearly that high because remember that the numbers that I'm looking at are strictly used by the taxpayers to pay their tax payments. So it's kind of a guessing game to know how many people will utilize that for a sheriff fee or a recorder's fee. And Forte already has an idea based on other counties that they've implemented their service at. So they're gonna guesstimate, I'm gonna give them numbers, and then that's how they're gonna come up with our rate. And then we certainly 6 months down the road, if we, watch how much it's being used, we can go back to them and negotiate a lower rate.
What was the range in rates again?
The range in rates with Forte, you mean?
Yeah.
They, what did they say? I think that they're currently proposing 2.5% to us. And I know a couple of counties, Mille Lacs County has them, Sherburne County has them. So I want to reach out to the counties and find out what kind of rate they're paying there so that we can use that as a.
I think this is a great option for the county, and the more we push people to use this, the better fee we get, or the reduced fee we get.
Yes, yeah.
But if you start doing, $10 million, it starts to add up even at 1.5%.
Mr. Chair, I remember it back when we discussed this a long time ago. I think there was a pretty much conscious acknowledgement that with the large property tax payments received, we would not absorb those fees. That would be very unreasonable to absorb those kinds of fees. So that was clearly one exception to that.
Mr. Chair, I want to take this to the next step in a comment that Monty made about, I think the goal of the departments are to use the card, right? You don't want checks and cash.
We don't want.
So if we take it to the next step, if you were to absorb those fees, is the trade-off on the labor of not dealing with cash and checks. I mean, there's labor there to do that, right? Especially property tax.
Well, there's still a lot of labor involved with processing.
Is there any
online
kind of
credit.
trade-off though? I mean, is the real push to go with credit cards?
Well, and I can only speak for my department, right? So when people pay online, there's just as much labor in processing those tax payments that are paid online as there is if they send us a check. We have to print the report out. We have to go through and manually post every one of those payments to the parcels and then make sure it all reconciles. Same process that we would go through if it was a cash or check. So on my end, it's not that it saves my department time.
Would it not be fair though to say that in your end or your department's gonna receive the majority of these credit card payments in the county?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, yep.
So I'm back at I'm not seeing it being on the taxpayer, and it's a convenience that I think people are used to using, and they maybe need to pay for that. They still have the choice to send the check in. I
Yes.
personally, I don't like the 2.85 or whatever's charged.
Yep.
I mail the check.
Yeah, and currently, the system is set up so you can either pay with a e-check or a credit card, and the minute you choose one of those boxes, the box pops up and tells you what the fee is.
Yep.
So at that point in time, if you don't want to pay the fee, you still have the opportunity to say, nope, I'm going to mail a manual check in.
Right.
Yep.
It's giving the option.
Yes, giving the option.
A lot of places you go, you're paying a fee for using your credit card, except for the really big industrial
Especially out of convenience
businesses.
ones.
Correct, so I'm not willing to let the taxpayers pay for it.
I don't believe
So-
they should either.
So it's gonna get passed on to the credit card holder.
I'm in agreement with that too. It would really add up after a while.
Oh, boy.
So, I can, provide you gentlemen with an update once we get the contract back from Forte and see where that's at. And I'm working with Michelle on that piece of it.
I got one more question, being
Yeah.
Chris is there. Chris, do you have a lot of people using, excuse me, be using credit cards, do you think?
We'll see.
In your department?
Oh, yeah, when Nadine's looking for data, we can provide that data, because right now, we don't have any kind of online payment.
Right.
But even as recently as 3-4 years ago, I'd say we had 50-50. People wanted to pay credit card, people still wanted to use cash check. In the past year, it's been 100% of people wanting to use credit card. And we're processing hundreds of permits a year that people want to pay for with a credit card. I think I could easily come up with estimates to provide Nadine on volume of what those charges would be. And it wouldn't surprise me if it's, when you consider permit fees, bond fees, which we return anyways, and even selling culverts and stuff, we could easily be, just from my department, $100,000 a year through credit card payments.
Mr. Chair, on Chris's side, I could see myself paying with credit card, just that 2.5%, so I didn't have to come into the county, send something in, and I get it done right now.
We're trying to go to an online system for our permits. Right now, we're still collecting paper, but even that has been transitioned to people are wanting to email those in, and then we say, we'd like to process your permit, but we need cash check, and then they're having to run a check out here or something.
Yeah.
So I have another question then. Is that something that can be ran through the fee system, or fee schedule?
So I think again, what we talked about a long time ago was adjusting globally our fees where we could to recover the merchant fees from the credit cards. So it'd be kind of be looking back and saying, okay, well, last year, we spent $10,000 on merchant fees, so we're gonna do this global adjustment, all our fees upwards to recoup that. And in that scenario, you wouldn't have an explicit charge to the customer for the merchant fee. It'd be embedded in the fee itself. It'd be just part of, it's like when you buy something at the store, the merchant fees are embedded in the cost of that product.
Correct.
It's just not explicit.
Yep.
So is that something that so my next question then is, do we go, excuse me, do we stay with the fee per credit card and look at it in another year to see what those fees added up to, and then put it into the fee schedule?
When you say that, are you meaning that it's absorbed?
Yeah, so like somebody wants to buy a culvert, culvert's $400, I don't know, so using a credit card, that would equivalent to what? If he used a credit card at 2%, would be $8.
Yep.
Okay, so you throw $10 on a culvert. I mean, is that something that would be easily figured out or
Well,
not?
sure, right. I think
Now it's
that-
$408.
That really wouldn't be a huge challenge. It'd be, again, you would adjust the fees where you could. I mean, if there's some fees, for example, that are set in statute, you could obviously charge someone more, but in most cases where we set our own fees, we could say, okay, we're gonna add some amount that covers our merchant fee.
Like property tax, we couldn't because that's set.
So basically, all
No,
DMV
right.
we couldn't touch.
So the DMV is, the credit card machines that we use now for DMV services are owned by the state and not the county. The fee for that equipment is set by state and not the county. So when you use your card for DMV services, you get that little second receipt that tells you what the fee is. That's all driven from the state. We don't have any control over what the state is going to charge for those credit card transactions. So that's a little different beast in itself. But one of the other things with Forte that I liked is that Forte has worked with the state in providing their equipment for the state DMV services. So for me, it would be really beneficial to have the same equipment throughout my office that the staff is using. So that is something I'm looking into as well. The other thing is Mille Lacs County, Morrison County. Morrison County does not have Forte, but they're similar in size to our county. So I could ask those auditor treasurers, out of curiosity, hey, what did you have in credit card sales for 2020 for your whole county? To give you an idea of what we're talking, money-wise.
That'd be good
And that'll
information.
give you an idea of what kind of fees we're looking at.
Mr. Chair, can we back up one step, Monty and Nadine, again, to clarify something? Is this something we're gonna drive as a county-wide, department-wide use, not individual departments doing different things?
Right, there'd be one solution, one vendor, one
Okay.
approach. I think that's the simplest way to do it. It'd be awfully confusing, I think, in one department, well, you explicitly pass the fee on, but in another department, you don't.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Okay.
that would seem awfully confusing to customers, especially a customer maybe that does business with multiple departments. That would seem strange.
So then is it fair to have that information brought to us about what we're going through, and let's make a decision?
Yes.
Sooner than later.
I think
Get
getting
this-
that information would be good
Yep.
to have.
Okay. All right,
Oh.
so,
And then the second complaint I had, we're not gonna open up yet
how come I'm
for
not gonna?
walk-ins.
Oh, you're talking about DMV. You're switching
We're
gears
switching
on
gears.
me. So we have already opened up to take tab renewals, DNRs, DNR stickers, and disability permits through walk-in. We've been doing that for at least 2 weeks. We are seeing a lot more walk-ins. And some of them are coming in for titles. And we help them, even though it totally messes up our appointment schedule. So yesterday, we have a gentleman walk in with titles, and we helped him, and because we helped him and we squeezed him in, we were 45 minutes behind on a customer who had an appointment. So that customer left mad, and the guy that walked in left happy. So that's our daily dilemma that we face with the DMV services. So, catch you up to speed. The good news is all 3 of my DMV staff are now approved for full access. So the 2 new staff finally got their approval. They are training with my long existing staff right now on title transfers. So we're starting there because there's a big demand. So they're training on that, and I'm gonna have them get their feet wet on titles for about a week, and then I've got to get them training on driver's license. So my goal would be by June 1st, I would like to open up fully to walk-ins and still offer appointments to the people that want to make an appointment. I'd like to offer both. Thoughts? It's gonna get crazy.
Yeah, Mr. Chair. So Nadine, just so I'm crystal clear, you have 3 full-time DMV employees.
Yep,
That does not include one
The-
auditor treasurer
that's
employee
correct.
who's helping with driver's
Doing
license.
driver's license, that's correct.
So is the intent that the 3 full-time DMV employees will be trained on driver's license to relieve the auditor treasurer position that's doing that? Is that the intent, or is the intent to coming back and asking for another employee?
So historically, the auditor treasurer staff, part of her job description was to process driver's license. And this goes way back before I started here. So that's always been a part of her job description, her daily duties, that processing tax payments and helping the taxpayers.
How much of her time?
Before COVID, I would say she probably spent 40% of her day on processing driver's license. Since COVID, 100% of her time has been driver's license, returning phone calls, scheduling appointments for anybody calling about DMV services. So the phone still is ringing. We're still getting about 20 messages a day, which is way down from when COVID initially started. We were getting hundreds of calls a day. So ultimately, that decision, I can't say, Commissioner Johnson, yet what we see happening with that. A lot of that will depend on what we decide to do with the DMV services, what direction that the commissioners want to take with that service. So she will continue to do driver's license as it is a part of her regular job duties. The new staff as well will learn driver's license as well. And as you are probably already aware, the Real ID got pushed out to 2023. So that, I think, is going to take a little bit of heat off of us. Because people, once the public gets that news, I think they'll slow down a little bit, knowing they have a little more time to meet that compliance.
Mr. Chair. Nadine, you had a little bit of turnover in your department too, so did you have 2 full-time or was it 3? Because I know we approved the half-time.
2
full-time.
full-time. Yep. So before, we had 2 full-time DMV staff and a auditor treasurer staff doing driver's license. Now we have 3 full-time DMV staff. So we went from 2 to 2.5 to 3.
Plus the auditor treasurer position.
Plus the auditor treasurer position.
Okay, so let's take this the next step then, Monty, you're gonna have to get down on this. Where does that take us if indeed we go to a June 1st opening? Where does that take us with our front end staff?
Guard.
Well, I think as the dean talked about, it's kind of a challenge doing a bit of a hybrid system where you have walk-ins, you have appointments. It's almost like you have to have some staff that deal with appointments and some staff that deal with walk-ins, because as the dean pointed out, if you allow the walk-ins to be served by your appointment person, it just messed up the appointment schedule.
Yep.
So it's almost like you have to have a bit of specialization. You do walk-ins, you do appointments.
Yep.
And maybe that can work long-term.
Yep, and that's our
Yeah.
plan. Our
Yeah.
plan is, at the 1st of June here, we're gonna go full bore with walk-ins. And then our queuing system, the nice thing about the queuing system is whether it's a walk-in or an appointment, everybody here for DMV services must check in at the queuing system. That puts them in an order, a rotation of who is going to get service first. The appointments end up on top and the walk-ins end up in between or on the bottom. So my thought is, let's get the girls trained, get them feeling comfortable with some of this stuff in the next couple weeks. I'm gonna have a staff meeting and we're gonna figure out a game plan of how we're gonna make this work. Just like Monty said, one staff member is gonna handle the appointments during the day, and maybe the other 2 staff members are handling the walk-ins. Maybe there's,
If I can just add one thing, is when the auditor treasurer's office went to the appointment system, that overnight solved the line problem. Because, I remember it was terribly cold that week. And you had folks waiting outside, for 20, 30 minutes. And then when you went to appointments, problem solved overnight.
Yeah.
And I think if you went back to a total walk-in system, you would see the resumption of the lines. And then that would generate its own set of complaints.
Right.
And I think as Nadine has told us, for some of these transactions, they do take quite a long time.
Yep.
Complex title transfer could take 20, 30 minutes.
Longer.
Driver's license
Yep.
can take,
Can take a good half an hour.
yeah.
Yep.
So I think for some of those transactions, perhaps an appointment system probably makes the most sense.
Yep.
And then for the quick tab, walk in, great.
Yep.
So
And if
I
we,
think really a combination too probably makes the most sense.
Okay, so back to my question about how long we're gonna have. Is it Tyler? I can never remember his name.
yeah,
Tyler?
yeah, our guard,
How long
yeah.
are we gonna have that person in place? And is it continue gonna be him, those services, or are we gonna move to another?
May I answer that question? my intention is to meet with Nadine, Roxanne, and Mike very soon to explore the future of the front security desk position. And frankly, I am hopeful we can chart a path to not needing that position anymore.
Okay.
It's costing us about $1,300 a week. I think if, the Auditor Treasurer's Office has a system you're comfortable with and it can be managed, we probably can exit the need for that, sometime fairly soon. Yeah, so.
I think for me, it's not, eliminating the guard isn't so much of the issue. It's, the amount of people in the county area, because of the space issue,
So I guess that's my thing is the thought that eliminating that particular service they're providing, but then still having a county employee there, or no one?
I don't know. Again, I think it's an issue we need to explore. I think ironically, when you went with an appointment system, again, the lines went away.
Yeah.
And really, you didn't really need the security person so much. It's when you had a walk-in system that you really needed them because they controlled how many people came into the building at once. Now, as COVID eases, as more people are getting vaccinated, this becomes less and less of an issue. So again, I think it's an issue that we just need to explore. And I'm eager to hear from the Nadine and other department heads about ideas they have.
I guess my thought process takes me to potentially getting rid of the security system that's been, or security company that's been provided. And if we need somebody there, let's do it locally.
Yeah.
So, if I may ask Commissioner Johnson, are you, what are your thoughts about, having the walk-in? I mean, as Monty has communicated, the appointment system did eliminate the problems we were having with too many people coming in. We have the potential to go to all appointments only with the 3 staff that we have. I still think that will limit the number of customers that we serve.
My perspective is we need the walk-in. I think the transition for me and what I'm thinking is we move away from the security person, company, and whatever you want to call it, transition through maybe a county employee, see where that takes us, and then let's revisit it again. From my perspective, we're not at a spot where we're just going to say that person or that position's out of here and let's just blow it all up and see what happens.
Right.
I think we've got a little transition here we've got to walk through.
Mr. Chair.
And I think we need those services.
I agree.
I'm a huge believer in the hybrid system. I think we need if I was that guy that waited 45 minutes for an appointment, I would walk out of here very upset. Because
Yeah.
I went through the time to set up an appointment.
Yep.
So I think the hybrid can work, and I'm gonna go to Commissioner Heinen. His biggest word that he likes is communication. I mean, and I think there's ways that we can start communicating to the public that, hey, a driver's license renewal takes 30 minutes. A title takes this if there's no issues. If there is issues, it takes this. And we start, taking them down this trail to start having people understand that my issue that wasn't a clean title just costed the next person a lot more time waiting in line, and therefore maybe I should start doing an appointment or something like that.
And I think to expand on that, I believe when I made my appointment, the options on there were titles, do you have 1 through 5 to do?
Right.
Then it's
and-
this.
Right, that's exactly what I was gonna point out, is when you go online to make any of those DMV services and driver's license included, when we've laid out our appointment system, we've figured out how much time normal circumstance will take. If you're doing tab renewal, you could probably do about 5 tab renewals, if they're normal, in 15 minutes. So the queuing system and the online appointment system doesn't allow us, it's not robust enough to allow us to customize each type of transaction. So I can't say if Commissioner Johnson picks tabs, that the system knows to slot him for 5 minutes. And then if you select driver's license, that the system knows to slot you for 20 minutes. It's not that robust. So what happens is we've got our appointment system and we have to say, okay, how are we gonna lay this out for the day? Every 15 minutes is a time slot for DMV services. So yes, if a tab comes in and it takes 5 minutes and that staff member has an additional 10 minutes sitting there before their next appointment to help a walk-in. Driver's license appointment is set up on a 20-minute schedule, because the gal that does that, she normally can get through any type of driver's license in about 20 minutes. But yes, we have, it does get thrown off. We have people walk in, they get mad, they want to be helped. We're trying to help as many as we can, and so we squeeze them in. And then you get them to the counter and you find out that it's a complicated title and it's going to take 45 minutes. Well, now you're already in the middle of it, although your next person's waiting. What do? This happens also. Somebody goes on there and they see that you can have 1 to 5 transactions, let's say for that time slot. Well, they'll pick it and they'll come in, and when they get to the counter, they'll have 5 tabs, 3 titles, and a driver's license for 15 minutes. So again, trying to service the customer, let's get through as much as we can, but when we do that, then somebody that's made the appointment behind them gets held up. I've communicated many, many times to the staff how important it is to honor the appointments, and I'm very passionate about that. If you took the time to make an appointment, I want to make sure that we're honoring your appointment. And I will keep drumming that to them because I think it's very important for us to honor that for those people that do that. So.
I agree. I think I think the public can understand the transition period we're gonna go through. That's everywhere.
Yep.
So
It's better than not having one.
it certainly is, and let's keep expanding the services, and let me remind you, if I could, gently.
For
that-
us.
Yeah, for you.
But Nadine, I do thank your staff for, and we gotta make sure we're building time in there for their breaks and stuff like that too.
Yep.
As you said before, a lot of times they're working through their breaks.
Yeah, so we have built time into every appointment on the schedule that we utilize for the 2 breaks and the lunches. We've kind of expanded it to account for overflow, if you would say. So over the lunchtime, they have an hour, even though their lunch is 30 minutes. That accounts for somebody that might have came in that took a little longer and they get delayed on going to lunch, but we make sure that they get their breaks and lunches. Yeah.
Great.
Yep.
Anything else?
One last, sorry, go ahead.
Okay, my question was about where the state and the county is at with the real ID.
Yep. So the state did announce that the deadline was supposed to be October 1st this year for the Real ID compliance, but the state just announced that they're extending that out to, I believe it's May 1st of 2023. So now the public has an extra 2 years to get those Real IDs.
So does that mean that at the state level, they are able to do the processing and the DMVs are, for those that are renewing, are updating at that point?
So in my office, the customer will come in and we will ask them what type of driver's license they want. So currently, there are 3 types of driver's license the public can get. The standard driver's license, which most of us already have. The Real ID, which is the TSA compliance driver's license. And what that license does is that after May 1st of 2023, if you wanted to fly to California for a day or 2, you could board a plane to California with just your Real ID driver's license. That's what it is. It'll allow you to board a domestic flight within the United States. The enhanced driver's license is another component. That one is a little more robust, and what the enhanced allows you to do is to board a domestic flight. And in addition to that, it allows you to pass into Canada and parts of Mexico, either by boat or by land. So there are actually 3 types of driver's license right now that the public can get. So although the state pushed out the deadline for getting that Real ID, and it is still a choice, you don't have to get it. if you have a passport, you can use your passport to travel anywhere. So it's not, they would like to see the public get the real ID, but you don't have to have it. They're still offering the standard driver's license for those people that want to just use their passport for traveling. Did that answer your question?
So in 2 years, is everybody gonna be mandated to have the other?
At right now, it's still an it's still optional.
But I mean, in
To-
2 years, is it gonna be
I
optional?
don't think they're gonna mandate everybody to have it.
Okay.
It costs a little bit more money, to have a real ID. And, you know, there are several people, like, especially in Benton County, we have a lot of elderly residents. They don't have any interest in traveling. They don't travel. They don't want a real ID. They just want to renew their standard driver's license. So hard to say that the state would mandate it. I think they're still always going to offer the option of a standard driver's license, but I mean, I could be wrong and it could change.
Are they going to be addressing the citizen status, or if it's if they're on here on a visa, or is that gonna be on all these IDs, or?
Yeah, I'm not really, I can't answer that question. I don't know what the ID cards are coded with. And I'm not sure that I could get that information, but I could ask a few more questions and see what I can find out for you. So, yeah, I'm not really sure how they're coded. They're not, you know, they're only good for domestic, so you couldn't travel out of the United States with that ID card. You would still need a passport. But, any other questions about it?
Mr. Chair, just two
Did I-
quick comments, I'm gonna be done with it. I wanna make sure we keep out front talking about additional services coming forward as we look at the DMV's future, and also the goal of getting back to our dealers,
Yes.
especially
Yep.
local ones.
Yep,
And I know that's.
it's on my
I'm bringing it up as a
radar.
reminder,
I
is
want,
all.
thank you. It's
Okay.
on my radar, and as soon as my two new staff are feeling more comfortable with title transfers,
Yep,
then that will be a good opportunity for us to pursue that.
okay, thank you.
Commissioner Gopinski, did you have a question, or you
Nope,
got it
I'm good.
answered?
No,
Any
I
more
just, I looked
questions?
at my real ID quick just to see what was on
Any other questions?
What'd you find out?
there. All of my information.
Yeah, yeah,
Thank you, Nadine.
thank you.
Thank you, Nadine.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Yep.
Okay, moving on. Commissioner meeting updates. Does anybody want to be spotlighted?
I was actually gonna talk to Monty right before the meeting on this. I think maybe
You can have a conversation.
yeah, we'll have a conversation after
Okay,
on this.
okay,
I got a couple other ideas that I'd like to run by you.
perfect.
Okay, commissioner meeting updates. Who wants to start? Commissioner Schlangen.
I haven't had any.
Well, that's good, I think.
Believe it or not, I'd have to agree. The only thing I had the last 2 weeks was our BEP meeting that we were all at, so really have no other updates.
Okay, well, obviously we met last, on the 27th, but on the 20th, we had about a 4 to 5 hour meeting at City of St. Cloud. And, I don't know how much in depth we need to really go on that, but that was a very long meeting and we'll see how that turns out. We did have on the 21st, a AMC that we briefly jumped on before our, city fully fiber meeting. We kind of briefly went over a lot of that today. We got another meeting next week, on Wednesday, to go over more on that. We're gonna try and bring in a few partners or a partner to maybe have some dialogue with. We did, we had the BEP, meeting at, Jack and Jim's. That was very good. Amanda did a very good job, I thought. It was fun seeing a lot of the business owners there and really what that all entails. So, they take it very serious,
They certainly
which
do.
is very good, so. Let's see here, last Friday, I had a emergency medical services board meeting. The board is still kind of trying to figure out where all the funds are gonna come to keep that board running. We did discuss that St. Cloud Hospital was ranked second in the state, which was a very good outcome for our central Minnesota. EMS week, they said was May 16th through May 22nd. So maybe we can, well, we'll be right in that week, won't we? Oh, actually, yeah, so maybe next board meeting, we can recognize that.
I'm assuming they'll have a proclamation coming anyway.
They did, but it didn't sound, they were gonna leave it up to the counties to take
okay.
care of that. But that is the week, for the, medical services, or EMS week, so. Johnson & Johnson is coming back out. After everything that was said and done, they figured out that it was more the blood clotting, and it ended up affecting like 0.005% of the people. So it, out of 100,000 people, it's not very many. So that's coming back out, and that scare is pretty much gone. They're doing, the board is doing a very big social media push to increase funding for that board. This board really relied, as I've said before, on the seatbelt fines and everything like that, and obviously those are way down. I had that wrote down. I thought they said like 150. I mean, it was very minute. It was in the hundreds of what they took in last month for seatbelt. So it's not very good there, but that was pretty much they've got a grant coming. We accepted a $28,000 grant. That'll be coming into this board. So other than that, that's what I had.
Okay. I had Benton County Historical Society. They're still working with the architect, moving forward. They used to have 3 phases, now they want to go to 1 phase, now they're opening it up for bids again, so this just keeps revolving. So every time I talk, it's the same thing. I'll let you know when something really actually happens. And then I had a Region 3 Leadership Board meeting. We had to have a one-stop operator agreement, and we all agreed on that. And of course, we all still shared our concerns about deed. So out of the Region 3, there's 7 career force / career solutions out there. 4 of them are on their own, 3 of them, deed has the 50% of rent lease on it, and I think deed is willing or wanting to get out of leases. And that could be a reason why they're not letting us open up yet, but we'll find out, because we're gonna send a nice letter to Commissioner Grove, and we're gonna find out what's gonna happen. Other than that, that's all I have to.
Mr. Chair?
Okay. Yes.
I was able to be on the AMC meeting, and it talked about boards and departments and how to get them to work together better.
Yeah. I wish they could all figure it out, but they can't. So, okay, Committee of the Wholes.
Okay. You have in your packet some ones we'd identified up to the point the packet was produced. First on the list was the discussion with department heads on county space needs. I believe it was consensus at the last board meeting to meet with all department heads and try and get some direction consensus on our space future. So I guess just looking at some dates going out. Oh wait, I gotta get the right calendar here. Oh no. Here we are on May 4th. What about the week of May 17th? How does that look? The week of May 17th. Like Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday of that week.
Could we do it right after the board meeting, or how long is it gonna be?
I'll guess and I'll be wrong.
Approximate hour or two.
I think it really is, it's up to you all, how long do you wanna discuss this issue, and you can kinda decide,
This is
okay,
gonna
we're
be a
gonna talk
long
about
one.
this an hour and we're done.
Monty, are you aware what may be on our agenda for that day yet?
I am not, I'm sorry, I don't have a good sense of, at this point, what's shaping up for the 18th. I'm not aware of any public hearings, but I could be wrong. So,
The 18th would work for me.
it
I'm
can-
gonna
it
say
can
the
definitely make for-
19th, 20th, and 21st are gonna be very tough for me.
Okay, well, this discussion is important, but it's not urgent. We could certainly go in the following week, for sure, the week of the 24th. How about Tuesday or Wednesday of that week? Or
Tuesday.
Monday either, too.
Are, Commissioner Heinen, are you opposed to staying after the county board meeting on the 18th, or where you at on that?
I'm trying to get my calendar up
Okay.
because my phone and my calendar on my laptop don't
Hard
connect.
thinking.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Yes, so am I, but I'll talk to
Technology.
Steve. Okay, the 18th, I can do that after the meeting.
I guess that would be my preference if that works for everyone else, but
Okay, sure, yeah, usually everyone's here on that day, so, okay.
that worked for you, right, Beth?
So we looking at possibly an approximate
18th worked.
10:30 to 11 start,
The 18th.
or upon conclusion of county board. So we'll leave it at that one topic then, so it doesn't turn into a marathon meeting.
Yep.
Okay, 18th. All right. Bob Cornelius wanted to reschedule the Human Services Committees of the whole. And he offers for you, resuming these quarterly, June 7th, September 13th, and December 6th, at 10 a.m. on those days. I believe, I'm guessing those are all Mondays?
Yes, they are.
Yes.
And 10 o'clock, did you say?
Yep, 10 o'clock. So, June 7th, September 13th, December 6th, 10 a.m. Human Services, we call them standing committees of the whole. And hopefully we can resume having them up on the third floor conference room,
I'm sorry, what was the December date?
December 6th
Thank you.
at 10 a.m. Okay, great, thank you. Got those?
AMC annual conference? I don't know what that,
We can switch that later.
okay.
Yeah, let's see, on the AMC, I have not seen myself when that's coming up.
I know there's something in September that.
It's very possible it could be that week though, because sometimes.
The 6th
it's
comes
that-
up for me as an AMC conference.
Yep.
Maybe,
probably what it is.
maybe to be safe, why don't we just go ahead and how about make that December 1, December 13th? Because there's very likely gonna be a collision with the AMC conference.
Yep, there will be.
So let's just say December 13th then. Because usually the AMC conference starts on the Sunday prior and then goes Monday, Tuesday.
Wednesday, yeah.
Maybe by then we'll be back to in-person, hopefully. So, okay, great. Next one is just to put on the committee of the whole listing, the May 12th, 8:30, Foley City Hall, the discussion about Foley St. Cloud fiber. I know Commissioner Kapinski and Johnson are attending those. May 12th, 8:30, Foley City Hall. Next one is Jerry Monchi invites you to go on the tour of practices. That's always really super educational, and you can see the dates he's got here. August 17th, it gives you 4 options. Of those you see on this sheet, are any of them out for you all? August 17th, September 2nd, 8th, or 9th?
17th's a board meeting day.
Yeah, okay, obviously then that's out. Let's see,
I'm just gonna be straightforward.
August
If you're
7th.
gonna book something in September, I won't be here, cause chances are I'll be gone 3 weeks in September. Starting
And I think that's the September 1st or 2nd, I mean, that's leading right up to Memorial Day.
We
or
already
Labor Day,
know
I'm sorry,
August
Labor Day.
17th is out. Well, I know it's, if you've been on tour practices before, they do invite a lot of folks from many different
They do.
organizations. And it's always tough finding dates that work for everyone. They invite legislators, a whole host of folks on these things, and it's definitely a big logistical feat to get these things scheduled, so.
Well, I guess my only thought would be stay away from a county board meeting day. But
Yeah, so the 17th is out. Yeah, the 17th is out. What are those September dates seem the most workable for most?
And what are they again? I'm sorry, I shut my laptop.
September 2nd, which is let's see, I'm sorry, I gotta get on
It's
the
a
right calendar
Thursday, and I
here.
would agree before Labor Day, that's not probably.
I won't be here.
No.
I have 2 meetings on that Thursday already.
So I'm hearing September 2nd is out. September 8th is a Wednesday, or 9th is a Thursday.
The 8th,
8th could work.
And usually, if you've not been on a tour, it takes the better part of your day. Usually the bus leaves Soil and Water at 9 a.m. and you won't get back into town till probably like 2 or 3. It's an all day event. They rent a nice bus. We stop for lunch, usually at one of the town halls, and stop and get out and see different sites. So I'm sorry, we said the 8th is probably going to be the best?
September 8th.
And what kind of tour is this?
Well, it's put on by our Soil and Water Conservation District, and what they do is they take us around to see different projects that they've installed. For example, maybe a erosion control project, a manure management project. It's really great to see the projects on the ground that have been implemented by Soil and Water. Hear from the landowners. Usually, they'll have the landowners there to talk to us. And on the way while we're traveling, they'll be telling us about different things that they've done in the county. Really educational stuff. It's always been, well, I think worth the time. Yeah.
I would agree, I've been on it. I would agree,
Yeah.
I've been on it, it's good.
Yeah. So again, usually the bus leaves at 9, so you're welcome to be there. I think about 8:30 or so, and they usually have coffee and donuts before we go. So. All right. So we said the 8th on that one. Let's a couple more. The Highway 23 Coalition meeting is on May 14th. It's gonna be virtual. It's May 14th.
It didn't have a time yet.
It doesn't
though.
have a time, does it? No.
Can you get us the time when you get it,
They'll
please?
probably be sending a link.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what we'll do is we'll just register you all, and that way you'll get the Zoom meeting link, and we'll find out the time. Sorry about that. It doesn't have the.
Monty?
Yep.
With that said, I haven't gotten anything on the Highway 23 corridor meetings. So I don't know if they're having them.
This would be it, right? The Highway 23 Coalition or corridor, right? Yeah.
Okay.
You know,
I think that's the 14th, right?
it's coming up very quickly, May 14th. That's right.
I'm surprised they don't.
We
have
will.
times out yet.
I will email Aaron Backman and make sure he has Commissioner Gopinski your contact information so
Okay.
he knows who to send information to. Yeah. I know we did that when the board first made all of its board and commission appointments. Something maybe slipped through the cracks here, but we'll make sure he's got it. I know that the coalition has not been very active in the past year, probably with the pandemic and inability to meet. So there really hasn't been a lot going on there.
They should be with all this money coming out.
Sure.
Sure.
Last thing. I mentioned I was going to have a conversation with Bill Coleman. Bill is kind of a broadband guru. He has an affiliation with Blandon. I talked to him Friday, and he's more than happy to come visit you. Now, I imagine, Commissioner Heinen, do you remember the meeting with Bill Coleman a little over a year ago? He was here. Folks from BEP were here. I remember Laura from Arvig was here.
Arvig, yeah. Yep.
And maybe others. Greg Brustol was here, I believe. And that was our attempt to kind of kick off a discussion about broadband. Well, then, of course, the pandemic hit and everything shuts down. Bill is, I think he helps communities kind of get themselves organized. And he helps connect you to resources to accomplish your broadband goals. So I don't think he comes in here with sort of like an agenda or a bias per se to sell us something. I think he'd be a great resource to just kind of help us organize our thoughts about how do we make this a reality. So, and he's more than happy to come in and see us. So I told him I'd talk with you all and possibly get a committee of the whole scheduled. One thing I'd also like to do is possibly invite the BEP board to be here. I really think BEP can be a great partner with us throughout this process of broadband, and really should be. It's a great way, frankly, to promote BEP and its role in the county and so on. So anyway,
What would be your thoughts, Monty, after another county board meeting, like June 1st?
if that works for you, it works for me.
It's just a single item, right?
Just a single item, yeah.
My guess is it'll be a little longer one, probably hour and a half.
Oh, I'm sure
We've
easily,
got-
yeah.
Just
Yeah.
remember, we're gonna have that, public meeting too about digital.
You're gonna have the ditch public hearing?
That's right.
Yeah.
So
You think a
we'll
lot of
probably-
people are gonna come to that?
I
Ditch
don't-
3, I don't think so.
There's not a lot of
Probably-
landowners there,
Oh, there's-
so I don't think so. I don't think a lot.
You're right, yeah.
So June 1st?
You okay with
Yeah,
that?
let's do it.
June 1st upon conclusion of county board.
The
Okay.
quicker the better, really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, one of my worries is that there's billions of dollars flooding America, and everyone's going to want to use this on broadband. So there's going to be at some point a scarcity of consultants, of raw materials, of expertise, because everyone's doing broadband. So yeah, I don't want to wait a long time.
Get in line.
One little sidebar thought that I thought in terms of getting on this issue right away, and that is our Benton County townships are also getting substantial resources. For example, I saw Watap Township is getting over $300,000. Here's an idea for you, and that is talking with our townships and say, hey, would you be interested in making grants to your residents to help them connect to fiber? So in other words, let's just say Benton County, we put in the main lines. But what about that connection to the household?
The last
Could
mile.
townships use their resources to do grants to their residents to help them connect? There's, again, I need to get the number, but if Watap is getting 300,000, I think some of the smaller townships are getting 70, 80,000. There's a lot of resources out there. So broadband could be, the point is though, it's important to sort of connect with our townships and sort of say, hey, you all want to work together and pledge your resources toward this common goal. That'd be, to me, ideal.
Absolutely.
So those are conversations I think we should start having.
There is a link to where you can go on, I don't know what it is, but Julie Johnson did it that night at our
Find out
meeting.
what they're getting.
Find out what they were all getting.
I'll find out for you. I was looking at it as a NACO website, and I was scrolling down this enormously long list, and I saw a few townships. I saw Watap, it was $348,000 they were getting.
That was specifically for broadband?
No, it's their entire allocation, just like we're getting the 7.9. I guess I really raised the question at this point, what would a township do with 348,000?
Yeah.
I don't really know. They don't have a water system, they don't have a sewer system. They don't necessarily have a lot of pandemic related costs. How would they otherwise use that? So, again, I think it's important to reach out to them.
Broadband helps everybody.
Yep,
Everybody.
absolutely.
I'm just
yeah.
thinking out loud here. Shoot it down if you want to, but what about would be the thoughts of a letter coming from admin out to our townships and then have the townships contact their county rep, their commissioner about
Okay.
what they want to do?
I think that's a great idea. Yeah,
It kind of spreads it out.
at least begin to reach out to them, yeah.
It's,
Sure.
it's a great way to communicate with them and have them counter communicate with us. Hey, we
Correct.
realize your money's coming in. What's your thoughts?
Let them know we're
Give some
talking about broadband, getting them think about it, get it on their radar. Yeah,
Contact their county commissioner.
yeah. Okay, I will do that. Thank you. You bet. I'll send a letter to town clerks.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the best way to connect with them.
Yeah.
Don't rely on email.
When do you, Monty, do you know the timeline of the 7.9 million?
We're supposed to get half of it like within the next month or so, if we haven't already.
And is there any rules tied to it about investing that money in the short term?
No, actually, I know Nadine, if she's still online, we're supposed to get half the 7.9 almost any day now.
Okay.
And I think she said she was going to park that in a so-called magic fund. That's a statewide Minnesota investment pool, and get some investment returns on that. Well, it's just, there's no point of it just sitting earning 0.01% in checking.
Mm-hmm.
So she was gonna put it into magic, and it sounds fine to me, yeah. Yep. But any day now, we should be getting half of 7.9 million. And I think the other half comes within a year of the second half.
I smell a cow coming down on what we're gonna do with the 7.9 million.
Commissioner Johnson, absolutely, and that's my full intention is to have another separate committee of the whole have some discussion about where do you think these resources should go? I think we need to kind of settle on a big picture. What's the framework? Business assistance, broadband, county needs, et cetera, et cetera. You know, it needs some framework for where it's gonna go.
There's a lot of money and a lot of ways to spend it, but it'll go quick.
Potentially, that's true. Yeah. So, some exciting opportunities for sure. That's all we have for committee as a whole. Could we get a motion to accept
Motion,
those?
yes, motion, please.
I'll make a motion to accept those committee of the whole dates that have been presented.
Second?
Okay, you got a motion, a second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anything else in front of the board? We're adjourned
Mo-
at, go ahead, Jared.
I got one question. Maybe we can do this after. Have you heard anything from St. Cloud?
I have not.
Okay.
I'll check with Michelle. I'll check with Michelle and see if she got any feedback. Probably what we want to know is when will this matter be heard by the St. Cloud City Council? So in case you want to attend, you can be
I will-
there.
I'll
So
be there.
I'll check in with Michelle this
With Michelle
afternoon.
being there too, though, we're
Yes.
not gonna attend ourselves.
No.
Excuse me?
We won't be attending ourselves without Michelle.
Of course, I would expect this, since she filed on behalf of the county, she might be your person that addresses this
She'll be our
issue.
voice.
Yes.
Correct, yep.
Yes, I'll find out and let you know. Yep.
Thank you.
Okay, with that being said, we're adjourned at 11:25.
Thank you. Jacob stuck through it all.
Let's get this